Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So a subscriber saw this dress on my page on Instagram and asked me to make a tutorial on this neckline. So that's the reason I made this video. Once again, you're welcome to the channel. My name is Ini. I make sewing tutorials and I upload almost every day. Subscribe to this channel so that you don't get to miss out on any of them. Follow me on Instagram and make your requests there. So without saying too much, we're just going to get right into this video. So by the end of this video, you would have learned how to make this built up scrub neckline. So this right here is the fabric I made use of. It's actually a BUBU I'm making with this fabric. So I folded my fabric into two and I have two different pieces here, just the normal way you would cut your BUBU. And on this page I have so many tutorials on making BUBU. Please click on the description box because I'm going to be linking that, and I will not be going through all the process of cutting a BUBU in this video, okay? Because it's just going to take a lot of time, and the main focus of this video is on the neckline. So guys, please, I was a bit hungry at the time I was doing this voiceover. Yeah, I'm not even kidding. So please just bear with me because I'll just be talking, like just going straight to the point, and in case I make some mistakes, just pardon me, okay? So this is the fabric here, and I'm going to go ahead to the neck area because I didn't do anything on the neckline. This right here is the neckline, and I have formulas on this channel teaching you how to get the normal neckline for anybody. So for this one, this is my dress and I made use of the normal 3 inches by 3 inches, 3 inches width. So I marked 3 inches there on that point. This is going to be the width of the neckline for both the front and the back. So after marking the 3 inches there, I'm going to be using 1 inch for the depth. This is for the back neckline because I'll be cutting the back first before we go ahead to the front. So I marked 3 inches width and just 1 inch for the depth of the back. And once that was settled, I just went ahead to take note of how many inches I would need for the opening of the neckline area for the front. I marked 8 inches at that point, then I marked 13 inches as the end of the design. So 13 inches is my underbust point, and that was just fine for me, okay? So you can customize this to whatever you want. So at this point, this was me just showing you the fabric I was going to use to match up the dress, and it was looking so beautiful. So you can use whatever fabric that matches your design or whatever print you're working with. And moving on, one thing you need to take note of is that before you can get the width of anything else, you need to observe and decide how many inches you're working with as the fabric. This fabric was 5 inches wide, and of course I'll be sharing this fabric is on a fold. This means I'll have 2.5 inches on both sides by the time I'm done, and it just doesn't stop at that point. Don't forget that we'll have to stitch this fabric half of an inch on both sides, which is going to take away 1 inch. So whatever the width of your fabric is, just subtract whatever the width of your fabric is, just divide it by 2, then subtract 1 inch. I don't mean to confuse you. 5 inch, we're going to have it on both sides, which is 2.5. Subtract 1 from 2.5 and you get what you should mark on at the end of the design, which is the 13 inches I mentioned. So I marked the same 1.5 inches on the 8-inch point where my neckline is going to start from. Then I connected all those points together. I made a slight curve from the 3 inches width at the top of the fabric, connected it down to that point and the 13 inches point where we have the mark as well. I hope you don't get confused. If you don't understand anything, just watch the video again and you understand. So now, moving on, there's one very important mark you have to make under the 13 inch or whatever point you're making. Mark half of an inch under and half of an inch on the side. Then create a sharp curve like this. That curve, that slant is very, very important because that's where we'll be making our notch. So when we cut at the 13 inch point, you see how we're going to make use of that notch. So now I'll just cut out the back neckline first. And once I'm done cutting the back neckline, I'll have to bend over one of them that will serve as the back inside before I cut out the front. I hope you understand. Don't make the mistake of cutting out that design on both the back and front. Of course, you will destroy your fabric if you do that. So after putting that inside, I just brought out the front like this. Then I'm going to go ahead and cut out at the 13-inch point. That's this point where I mentioned that will be the end of my design. And once that is achieved, it's now time to use that notch I talked about. So when you're done cutting, you're going to make a very slight notch, that 1/2 inch notch I said you should make. I was just trying to be careful to make sure that my fabric was not on there and I've maybe cut it by mistake. So in case you don't understand, I'm going to redo it again. When you're done cutting at the exact point you want your fabric, your design to stop, make that 1/2 inch notch, just not more than 1/2 inch. That 1/2 inch notch is very important and you get to understand what you're going to use it for later on in this tutorial. So once that is achieved, I'm just going to open this fabric up and show you what it looks like. So this is what the fabric looks like after opening it up. You can see that the 1.5 inches has now become wider because that was on a fold. So after cutting the front neckline, what we need to do is just join at the shoulders. Simply join by 1/2 inch, and once that's done, we're just a few steps away. So this is what our dress is now going to look like, and I opened up all the seams and I pressed them open. So I always talk about how important it is to press every step of the way because it makes your garment look really nicely made. So once I was done with that, I just put this neckline together. I match them up together like this so that I can take some accurate measurements here. So this point is very important. You take note of what I'm doing. So I matched up the shoulders and I pinned them up together. Then I matched up the neckline so that I can get the back mid neckline. That's the middle point of the neckline. When you iron your fabric before you cut, you also have a crease line that can help you with these things, okay? So what I did was notch every point. Can you see that place I made a 1/2 inch notch? I just marked everything. I just pinned up everything. I already said it that I'm hungry at the time of doing this voiceover, but nothing is going to stop me from uploading this video this evening. So please like this video. It takes a lot of effort. So after pinning up these things, I just notched the center back of this BUBU, and now I'll start taking my measurement from that notch. That is the center point. I'm going to zoom in so that you can see this clearly. So from the center back, I'm going to take my measurements across to the neckline point at the front. That is where the opening is going to close. In case you don't understand, I'll just put up a picture so you understand. That's that 8 inches I said I wanted to be the neckline opening. I measured to that point and I got 11.5 inches. I'll take note of that point. Then I'll also take to the notch part and I'll take note of those measurements. So those two measurements were 11.5 and 17.5 respectively. I just wrote them down on my palm so that I don't get to forget them because I will need them later on. You might need to just take this measurement one more time so that you're very sure of what you're doing. But for me, I was very sure, so I worked with those measurements I mentioned earlier. So these are the pieces of fabric I'll be working with, and they are 1-1. They are not on any fold. Do you get? So 5 inches wide, like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, and it is as long as. Okay, so they are both open, but if you have a fabric that is long enough that can bend, as you can see, I had 17 point something inches to work with, and you can see that it wasn't enough if I bent it over, and that's why I had to stitch at the beginning part. So I took this at this beginning part and I stitched both of them together so that they can form one. This means I'll have a center line at the center back of my dress. So I just opened it, gave it a very nice press and opened everywhere so it looks good. So after doing that, you need to take note of this point very, very closely. Now, from that part where I made the stitch, that will serve as the center back. So I divided this fabric into two. That's a 2.5. And then the first measurement I'm going to take from the top part is going to be 11.5 inches. 11.5 inches from the beginning of this fabric, and then I will now take note of the end of the fabric as well. So let me repeat myself. From the top part, whether you folded it or you stitched, from that point, take your neckline measurement, which is 11.5 inches for me. This might be different for you. I marked that point. Then it's from that point I'll start stitching down. So my full length is 17.5 inches, but please make sure you are adding at least 5 inches to the length because you don't want it being short. It's better for it to be longer. You cut off the excess than for it to be shorter, okay? So I'm going to stitch all the way down to the end of this fabric. This stitch is going to start from the 11.5 inches point to the bottom of the fabric. So this is what it looked like after making the stitch, and now I'm just going to turn it over like this. So turn it over like this and you have every part neatly finished inside like this. Give it a very nice press. I always say iron as you sew. Your outcome is going to be so beautiful, trust me. Just try it and give me a feedback. So turn it over like this and our collar is almost ready. Now there's one thing you need to know when you're making this kind of collar. I don't know, sometimes, especially when you're using ashoke, this measurement sometimes can go wrong and it might just not pass. It's very good to test run this, put this over the person's neck, or just try to check that this thing can pass the person's neck. It might be tight sometimes. This is the only point you can come back and make adjustments. If you fail to do these adjustments at this point, you find it more difficult when you finish the dress. So I put this over my neck and I realized that it was a bit tight. I just loosened by 0.75 inches. Okay, I loosened it and made a back stitch to hold it in place so that it doesn't loosen. Okay, so once that was done, it's now time to attach this collar to the dress. This is the dress and I'm going to turn it over to the right side. This piece is going to be going right side facing right side. So I made a stitch all around just to keep everything in place. Then I trimmed off all the excess so that I know what I'm working with, you get, because we still had the fabrics being separated and all that. I turn this over and of course make sure that your center point is matching the center back. In my case, the line was the easy indicator to tell me where the center back was. So I just matched it up at that point. I pinned it up. Use your pins, it will really help you so that you don't make any mistake at this point. So mark everything together, stitch till you get to the notch, and once you're done stitching to that point, turn it over again and stitch to the second notch. Once you're done stitching, you should have something that looks like this when you turn everything to the right side. This part that is the excess, you're going to pass it through that hole you have at the bottom part. And now we're going to be making use of that 1/2 inch notch that we made in the beginning of this video. Turn your fabric now to the wrong side like this and then pin up the excess, that 1/2 inch we have been talking about. If you did not make this notch, it's going to be so difficult for you to finish this dress. This 1/2 inch point is going to help you to complete this dress in a very neat way. So match up the 1/2 inch point and then pin up this dress accordingly. Take it to your sewing machine and stitch by just 1/2 inch. So this was me still trying to show in details how to take up this pin, like to pin it up. So pin it up and make sure you're just stitching by only 1/2 inch from one end to the other end. When you're done doing that, your collar would be 98% ready, and the remaining 2% is going to be for your ironing, because once you're done ironing this neckline properly, you see how beautiful everything would look. So this is what I meant when I said that it's better for you to have excess on the plain fabric than for it to be short. Guys, this is what it looked like by the time I turned it to the right side. As you can see, our neckline is so beautiful. Like the one in the picture, I just made beading, like there was some bead work on it, and that's why it looked shiny like that. So if your plan is to bead, you can go ahead and bead, and that's all about this. Just complete your BUBU the same way you would normally do, and that's all about this tutorial. If you found it useful, please drop a comment, like this video, subscribe to the channel, turn on notification bell so you're the first person to know when I upload a video. Please follow me on Instagram. I would really appreciate it. So that part is going to be weaved. Okay, just weave everything. Take it to the weavers, or if you have a weaving machine, that's fine. Thank you guys, and see you in my next video. Bye.